The dog
Mhm.
trainers I really see burn out are like one of two people. They're either the people that are like spinning their wheels and doing stuff and just not getting any success. And they're like, this doesn't make any money. This doesn't work. And they just give up. Right. But then there's another person who's way more common that I've seen, which is like they've had success in the past, but they have these massive swings, these peaks and valleys in their business where one month it's good and then it's slow and then it's okay and then it's good again and then it's slow again. And I think the reason for that is because you're trying to, most cases, do it all yourself. And when you have to do everything yourself, it's an inevitability that you're going to get burned out, because it's like, how long and how hard can you work yourself before your body and your mind is just like, I just need a break, dude. And so this is why building a business that exists beyond you, like someone to answer the phone, rain or shine, right? Get
Mhm.
consultations on your calendar. Somebody that can watch the dogs so that you can get some time on the weekend to actually go spend some time with your husband, your wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, friends. Doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, like, you need to be able to grow a business so that you can buy back your time. Because if you don't, it's only a matter of time. Like, you can do 20K a month, but we've seen people who are doing 20K a month. They're doing it for 3, 4 months. They're doing it for 6 months. And then all of a sudden they just crash and burn.
Welcome to the Top Dog Mindset Podcast, where we unlock the secrets of running a successful dog training business. I'm your host, Kevin, joined by my co-host, Angel. Together, we bring you expert insights, inspiring stories, and practical tips. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, we're here to provide you with the necessary information to build a thriving dog training company. So relax, join us with a cup of coffee as we explore the Top Dog Mindset Podcast.
All right, welcome in everybody to another episode of the Top Dog Mindset Podcast. Kevin and Angel here. And today we're having an interesting conversation, and that's kind of just talking about what it is that most dog trainers actually want out of their business, and the difference and the gap between what they think they want and what they actually want. So just to kind of kick this off, I've been having a lot of discussions recently with just different leads. People have signed up this week. And what I've realized is, like, when I ask people what they want out of their business, it's not really the right question, because I think what that kind of like is asking them is almost like, how much do you want to make? Like, how much revenue do you want to generate from your business? And what I hear from a lot of people is like, I just want to get enough dogs. I want to be booked out. I want to make, or even if they do put a number, like, I'd be really happy if I made like 15 to 20K a month. But when I press it a little bit further and I ask them, like, hey, are there things that you envision in your dream dog training business? Are there things like having a team of really good, reliable trainers that you can trust, to do a good job, or kennel techs that, can handle like a lot of just the tasks that need to get done throughout the day? Or do you want an office admin or a salesperson that can take that stuff off your plate? Do you want to have your dream facility? Do you want to have a sprinter van to move dogs around in? Do you want to have freedom to actually be able to travel to like go to other dog training clubs, travel the country to go do that, or go to dog training seminars and stuff like that? Because if you want any of this stuff, the truth is you'll never get it with a business that makes 10 to 20 grand a month, right? The only
Mhm.
way you'll get some of it, but you won't be able to have like your true dream business unless you really focus on growing a company that is exists beyond you, I guess I could say. So what I mean
Yeah.
by that is, like, you'll never have freedom unless you have people hired to do the things you want. And more importantly, businesses that have all of this stuff, right? Everything I just listed there, those businesses are typically making, just from what, I've seen with clients we work with, anywhere around 50 to 100 grand a month, and usually really closer to the 100 grand a month mark. And so if you want
Yeah.
to be somebody who's a business owner that like actually owns a real business, and you feel like, I have freedom and I have great people working for me, I can afford to pay them well and retain good talent, then you need to have a business that's set up to generate a lot of revenue so you can use that money to actually afford these people and these things. So, Angel, with
Yeah.
that being said, what are your thoughts on this? Because I know you work with a lot of clients, and I just want to kind of get your perspective on everything I'm talking about here.
Yeah. I mean, everything that you're talking about, in terms of like the specific questions that you are asking clients, like, do you envision having a team of people? Do you want to be able to have, vans for your business? Like different things like that for them to have like an actual like visual of what their business looks like. I think that's super helpful. Those are super helpful questions to ask people and conversations to have, because I think like when you think about it, if someone says like, "Oh, I just want to be able to make like ten to $15,000 a month," but they don't realize that like you are going to be the only person likely going to be the only person that's having to work 24/7 in your own business. Or if you say, I just want to be able to book myself out a couple of months, that can look a lot different from person to person. You could book yourself out for, 3, 4 months. But if you're the only trainer in your business and you can only handle like 3 dogs at a time, and then at the same time, you are underpriced, I feel like this is something that we see with our clients. And I feel like sometimes they don't realize it too. Like they'll get booked out, they'll be booked out with clients for a month, and then they'll start getting booked out for a couple of months, and it's like you reached your goal, you're exactly where you said you wanted to be. But it's hard for them to celebrate those wins or even like feel like it's a win because they're booked out, they've reached this goal, but at the same time they might be like underpriced, or maybe they're just like super burnt out because they're handling literally everything in their business. So while like the thought of being booked out sounds really nice, or the thought of, bringing in 10, $15,000 in 1 month sounds nice, I feel like oftentimes people aren't thinking about like what it's going to take to get there by themselves. So doing a little bit of like reverse engineering, like you were just talking about, by asking them like, what is your vision? And then you have to kind of come up with a growth plan on what it's going to take to get there. Are you going to have to hire multiple people? Are you going to need to, I don't know, like set your ads budget to a certain amount? Are you going to need to bring in even more trainers so that way you can bring in this amount of dogs? Or do you need to increase your pricing and things like that? So I think those are super helpful questions to ask, and then kind of like backtrack what that growth plan needs to look like for them in order to reach that actual goal.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, I think, you just touched on something that's really helpful there as well, which is, something that we've been exploring a lot more with our clients is the marketing strategy that you have in place to get you from like inconsistent to booking yourself out with like 3, 4 board and trains a month, private lessons. That's a very different number that goes into marketing and ads than somebody who's trying to make 100K, 100 or 200K a month. You know what I mean? Or even 50K a
Hmm.
month. And so, you're also going to have a different marketing strategy. You don't need to have multiple forms of client acquisition to get to 10K a month or even get to 20K a month, but getting to these higher echelon of numbers, you really need to ask yourself, like, what does a 6-figure a month dog training business look like? Does it have a website that looks like it was built by someone who has no clue what they're doing? Just be honest with yourself. Does it not have like the proper elements of like conversion rate optimization where there's like a really good CTA and there's search engine optimization that's been done to the website? It loads fast, It's not like a Wix template that you put together 10 years ago, you know?
Yeah.
Do they have a good social media presence? Right? Not like they post, stock images or a post once every, 2 weeks or something like that, or even once a month or something like that. It's like, how does their sales process function? Do they know their numbers? Do they know what it takes, how many leads it takes to get an actual client to sign up? Do they know what their average ticket sale is? Do they know what their conversion rate is? All of this stuff. And so, a lot of us should really start building these systems and processes now. And this is the type of stuff that will give you way more predictability when it comes to scaling. So that way you don't get stuck in that in between period. Because I think for a lot of people, that's really the most painful place to be. The dog
Hmm.
trainers I really see burn out are like one of two people. They're either the people that are like spinning their wheels and doing stuff and just not getting any success. And they're like, this doesn't make any money, this doesn't work, and they just give up, right? But then there's another person who's way more common that I've seen, which is like they've had success in the past, but they have these massive swings, these peaks and valleys in their business where 1 month it's good and then it's slow and then it's okay and then it's good again and then it's slow again. And I think the reason for that is because you're trying to, most cases, do it all yourself. And when you have to do everything yourself, it's an inevitability that you're going to get burned out, because it's like, how long and how hard can you work yourself before your body and your mind is just like, I just need a break, dude. And so this is why building a business that exists beyond you, like someone to answer the phone, rain or shine, right? Get
Hmm.
consultations on your calendar. Somebody that can watch the dogs so that you can get some time on the weekend to actually go spend some time with your husband, your wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, friends. Doesn't matter, but at the end of the day, like you need to be able to grow a business so that you can buy back your time. Because if you don't, it's only a matter of time. Like you can do 20K a month, but we've seen people who are done doing 20K a month. They're doing it for 3, 4 months. They're doing it for 6 months. And then all of a sudden they just crash and burn because they're like, I just can't do it anymore. I can't constantly have dogs in my care. I can't constantly be running around from lesson to lesson. I can't constantly be running around to consultations, dealing with every upset client, handling every single fire in the business. It's like that's just a recipe for disaster. And so you don't want to get stuck in that in between stage where you're making money but you still have to do everything. You can do that for a period of time. I think that's a good place to be. It's a good start because that's when you can really save a lot of money. But that is the goal, is like save money when you're making 20K a month and you're doing all the work yourself, put everything away. And then what you want to do is like reinvest. And, we have a client, Amanda, who's a perfect example of this. She was just on our group coaching call the other day. And she was saying, I was scared to bring in an appointment setter because it was like, oh man, it's like, it's intimidating to have to take on somebody else's salary and be responsible for them and their family. But she's like, the dividends that it pays off like every single month, just to have somebody answer every lead, follow up with leads. And these that, just even adding somebody to that business in that role is the type of thing that's going to help her get to 30, 40, 50K a month.
Yeah, I think like if you are someone who is just running like a one-man show, one-woman show, the first really good step to focus on is like more of like your business mindset, because you mentioned like people, like especially our clients who have like teams of people or teams of trainers, or they have a facility, they're bigger businesses. Obviously they didn't start there. They started as just like a one person business. But those people are super dialed in with their numbers. But they didn't just like create this big business and then had to get super dialed in. Like they got to a point when they were running things on their own of like really shifting into this business mindset and staying very in touch with their business, constantly like keeping track of what their numbers are and things like that. I think that's the very first thing that you need to do to eventually grow. But you talk about like burnout too, and like people who are running things on their own, like it kind of like goes in waves. They have like really, really good months where they have like a lot of energy. They're, the energy is showing in the conversations that they're having with people. They have the energy to meet with people, and like the passion for what they're doing is there. But over time, it starts to wear on them with like all of the hats that they're wearing and having to deal with dogs and having to deal with, difficult clients and things like that. And they start getting to a point of burnout, and that affects how business is going, whether their energy with people over the phone is changing, and like those conversations just start to become super short and things like that. But one of the things that I noticed too is like the people who aren't as in touch with the back end of their business, like their numbers, we can tell how many leads you've gotten this month, but can you tell? Can you tell and look back on how many of those were answered? Can you keep track of how many of those you scheduled for consultations, and then how many of those you sold? What your revenue was for that month, like literally all of the little details of your business. But what I've noticed, like people who don't tend to keep track of that information also tend to, and I think this is more like subconsciously on their end, but they tend to find something in the business to kind of shift the blame towards. And I say this because when you have a bigger team, right, you have like people who are dedicated to certain things. Your job is to answer the phone and set consultations. Maybe if someone has someone hired for sales, your job is to then go and meet with this person and do the consultation. Or, this person's job is to post content on social media or something like that. So anytime anything is off in the business, you know exactly where to go and try to fix that issue. When you're only one person, you really don't have the opportunity to do that. And if you're not super dialed in with your business and not super dialed in with your own like business mindset, it's hard to do that. It's hard to say like, okay, well, I haven't been scheduling consultations. That's on me. Let me figure out like where I need to fix that within myself. I feel like they really start like losing direction a little bit. And they're like, well, maybe it's the calls, maybe it's a time of year. And so
Yeah.
I think that's important to point out, because I truly don't think like people are intentionally doing it. It's just when you don't have, a team of people where you can go to and be like, hey, this is your job. We need to fix whatever is going on. Like when it's just yourself, you can't really do that. But it
Mm,
takes a lot to, recognize that.
totally. Yeah. And I think something that you had said before, which is really important, is almost this like sometimes you feel inspired to do that work and other times you don't. Sometimes
Hmm.
you're like, I'm going to call the shit out of my leads today. And other times you're like, oh, the phone's ringing. I don't feel like answering it. And I'll never forget, like years ago, I was listening to a podcast and somebody was talking about fitness and more specifically like weightlifting, bodybuilding, and stuff like that. And he's like, when I meet dudes who get really into bodybuilding and they tell me that, like, yeah, every single day, to go to the gym, I take my pre-workout and I have this like ritual where I'll like watch these inspirational videos and I'll watch like pumping iron and stuff like that. And he's like, I always tell these guys, like, don't do that because at the end of the day, if you wait for inspiration or you need to feel inspired to do something, that's like a fleeting emotion. It's like something that's like a gift that sometimes we get to experience. It's not a state of being. You're not always going to feel inspired. There's actually going to be big periods of your life in your business where you don't feel inspired at all. And you just
Hmm.
got to do the shit that needs to get done. And so that's
Yeah.
why you need to bulletproof your company at a certain point and get somebody in who isn't doing 50 things at once and is just like an emotional wreck on certain days and they're just like check out and don't want to answer the call.
Yeah.
Because like that's what I found from some people is they're just like, I just can't get myself to do it. It's like, well, congrats, you don't have a business anymore. So hire somebody that's going to do it and manage them and make sure they do a good job. And here's the thing, it's not even that much money. Like so many people could afford this, like to bring somebody in part-time, go to like a freelancer website. It's probably going to be anywhere between like, around $12 to $14 an hour. And maybe you pay them as an extra bonus incentive, $10 for every appointment they set that shows up for you. And what you're really talking about is like, for a lot of people, anywhere, depending on how long they're actually working each month, maybe around 2 grand a month that they end up paying them or something. It's one program. It's less than one
Hmm.
program. So if they help you make one sale plus a month, which they will, if they're good, they'll help you make every sale effectively at a certain point because they'll be the one in charge of that department in your company.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, why did I ever wait on this? So
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like we've gotten into the nitty gritty here of this, but I feel like the main thing that I kind of want to just harken back to is, think about your business in terms of money is weird. Picking a number seems odd. And a lot of us like have mindset issues around money anyway. So you would think like, who am I to say I want to make 50 grand or 100 grand a month or something? Like I've never even made 10 grand. But
Hmm.
what I would really encourage you guys to do is like, think about what the business looks like when you would be like fully fulfilled and be like, man, this is a business that I'm proud and excited to show up to every single Monday morning, right?
Yeah.
And that's like I get time away. My employees get time away. They get paid well. I get paid well, right? And I get to do the thing that I love to do. And so because of that, what does that business need to look like in order to accomplish that? Like, how do you get your dream facility? How do you get your dream vehicle? How do you take your dream vacation? All of that stuff. It's like, think about what the business would need to look like in order to be able to give you that. And
Hmm.
then, start doing some research and actually piecing it together and being like, all right, if I want to have 4 trainers, I'm on indeed.com looking at, other companies hiring and what they pay their dog trainers, or what does a kennel tech get paid? How much does an office admin get paid? You could go to ChatGPT and just ask it all these questions, it would probably tell you and be pretty
Hmm.
close. And you'll find a number. It's like, hey, in order to have a staff like that and pay rent, it's like you need to make 40 grand a month. It's like, okay, so if I need to pay 40 grand for my overhead, then how much do I need to make in order to be profitable for myself, right? And pay taxes and all of that stuff. And don't let this intimidate you. Let it motivate you. Because I was talking to a client the other day and he's like, it just kind of seems like a hassle and I don't know. And I was like, you know what, dude? You got to pick your version of hard in your business because what is more hard? Managing a team and every once in a while having to step in and like deal with an annoying client and who wants to talk to you and they're being difficult and they're not working with the trainer and or whatever that fire may be and having to put that out every once in a while or having to do that 100% of the time because you're the only one there to take care of anything. And he was like, when you
Hmm.
put it that way, I realized like I'm doing it anyway. I'm already fixing all the problems anyway myself. And I don't even like the way that I'm doing this right now. And he's like, I want to try and do this a different way.
Yeah. And I wouldn't even say like it. they're in a position of having to do it 100% of the time, because then you're so much more likely to reach burnout. So it's like you're doing it 100% of the time, maybe like once every 3 months, and then those months in between you're at like 70-80% while you're trying to
Hmm.
like work yourself back up to where you need to be.
Yeah.
But like we talked in the beginning about kind of doing like reverse engineering it. So, and I know you say like for some people, I think picking a number is just like weird and awkward. Like, yeah, I
Yeah.
want to make a lot of money, but like, what does that look like? How do I even figure out like what that number is? So again, like reverse engineering it, thinking of like what that end goal needs to look like, how much you need to get there, and then kind of like doing the math to figure out like, okay, how many dogs does that mean that we need to bring in per month in order to reach this goal? And if we bring in that many dogs, what do the prices need to be at? Because then that can help kind of figure out like if you need to raise your prices. So I think like really doing it backwards will be super helpful. I did it with one of our clients beginning of this year. I want to say a couple months ago. I don't know. I lost track of time, but he kind of had like a vision on what he wanted to bring in like over the next year. And so that's what we did. We figured out like, first of all, we kind of like broke down what his programs were at that time, like what they were priced at and things like that, and then figured out like how many of those programs he would need to sell per month in order to reach that yearly goal. Seems a lot, it feels a lot easier and like less daunting when you do it that way versus just like putting a number on it and then being like, okay, I just have to work my ass off and hope that I get to this number. Like you can really figure out what those numbers have to look like. And then when you come up with those numbers and you realize like, okay, I don't know if I can handle that, like that's going to be too much work for me. Perfect. Then you hire a trainer and that person helps you get to those numbers.
Yeah. And the thing that I love about the people that we work with that tend to be the really high earning companies, I think a lot of them are pretty humble people and would tell you that like I'm not even special. Like it's not like everybody who's in the dog training world who owns these businesses. Like I'm sure you guys would, who are listening to this could look around and point at other people and be like, I'm a better trainer than that person. And I'm not even saying that from an egotistical perspective. And that other trainer who owns that bigger company maybe even admit to the fact that they're not the best trainer. They're not always the highest IQ people in the world. I'm not the most high IQ person in the world. And at the end of the day, all this really comes down to is having good systems in place and a willingness and a mindset to be open to change and testing new things and like putting yourself out into uncomfortable positions. So I guess this is a good thing to wrap this episode up with. Like, I think so much of this, what it really boils down to is fear. I'm
Hmm.
afraid to admit out loud to other people what it is that I truly want out of my business and what I want it to look like, because let's
Hmm.
be honest, people who don't own businesses and don't have the entrepreneurial spirit or mindset like you do, they're going to say negative things. Like, even if they don't mean to, they mean well and they're trying to be helpful. They'll say things like, well, that may not be as easy as you think, or just be careful, it's not good, it's not easy to find good help, or any litany of like things that people say to you. But so much of like everyone's decision or lack of decisions in their business boils down to their own insecurities and fear. And I've recognized that in myself, and that's why I'm saying this. It's like that whole thing of you just can't find good people, it's like rephrase that to I don't know how to find good people. Because
Hmm.
as soon as you do that, you just recognize like I have a skill deficiency and recruitment is a skill. That's why there's agencies that make hundreds of millions of dollars a year doing recruitment, right?
Hmm.
I need to learn how to recruit good talent. I have to have a company that's worth good talent coming to and wanting to work at. I'm a good person to work for, right? All of these things. And that's the type of thing that's going to like, attract better talent. But none of these leads are buying. I don't know how to get these leads to buy, right? None of these leads from my ads are on Avatar or like people that are serious about training. It's like, I don't know how to make ads that bring in serious leads. So if you can reverse engineer like the problems that you're having and just be like, this is at the end of the day, what I've realized as an entrepreneur is it all ends with me. It all falls on my shoulders. The people that in my company, if they're not good, I hired them, right? Or I'm the one managing them. If a client doesn't get results, it's like, man, we probably didn't do enough, or maybe I made a decision in the first place where I should have never brought that person on, right? Or we dropped the ball and could have done this better. And as soon as you
Hmm.
start recognizing all of that in yourself and you're just like, there's no one there to blame. but you started the company. You're the one who runs it, you know? That's actually
Yeah.
a very freeing place to be. All right, cool. Well, listen, we can wrap it up for today, but I hope you guys got some value out of this. We've been getting very clear as a company on who our ideal client actually is and who we can help. And what I've recognized is we like working with people, and we know that we can help people who want to grow real dog training companies. So people who want to go, just using a number, 250K or 100K a month, right? But it's not even so much about the number as much as it's about the mindset of like what you want out of your life. Do you want to employ other people? Do you want to grow something that's bigger than you? Do you want to grow something that you're really impressed by? And if that sounds like you and that's what you're looking to do, and you feel like you're not there yet, and you feel like you're underachieving and you've been spinning your wheels and not getting the progress you want to see, book a call. Head on over to our website, topdogadvertising.com. There's a button at the top that says book your free game plan call. Schedule a call with us because it's completely free. And the truth is, we'll at least point you in the right direction. If we feel like we can help you, we'll make an offer to have you come work with us if that's what you would want. If not, it's no sweat, and we would at least just push you in the right direction. So with that being said, we're going to wrap up the call here for today. We appreciate you guys as always, and we will see you guys all very soon in the next one. See you guys.
Bye, guys.